I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you some of Lambeth's style of overpiping. And it's a good idea to practice this before you start doing it on the cake. It is going to seem a lot like a piping lesson, and believe me, the more you do this, the better you get at piping. Kind of a lost art. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a 16, a 5, and a 3. And with the 16, I'm going to start with a slight zigzag. So when I pipe, I'm going to go back and forth like this in a zigzag. Always making sure when I do this, trying to keep it even, but keeping a tooth up so that the ridge is always up. Make sure you don't twist your bag, because if you twist your bag, it's gonna be too messy. You want to keep it, that ridge, always up whenever you work with something with a tooth. You can see the ridge is always, there's always a mountain and valley. Once you do a nice zigzag, Lambeth always started with a nice base of zigzags. Okay, once you do that, then what you want to do is you want to go on top of that with a straight. This is a 16 and we're going to do a straight. And usually when we pipe, usually we will touch and we'll lift up and then we'll set it down so that we get a nice rounded line. And you want to keep, again, you can see that valley is up. When you press, you don't want to twist your bag and then end up with the line twisting and turning. Okay. However, when we go on top of the zigzag, it's okay to drag it just a little bit, just so you don't end up with it twisting, because sometimes you end up with it twisting anyway. And you want to go right in the center of that zigzag. And then you stop and you pull away. That way you don't want to end up with a big blob here, go on, and then a big blob here, and then pull away. You want to touch as you're squeezing, stop, squeezing, touch, and pull away. Once you've done that, you want to overpipe on top of this line again with a number 5. And we're going to go right inside that valley. See how you've got that, you had the tooth up, and so it created a valley. And we're going to go ahead and we want to lay this line right in the center. I'm having a problem here. There we go. Right in the center of that 16. Notice I'm lifting so that the string is nice and rounded. Stop and pull away. Now, if you don't get it exactly on top, again, you can use your brush. Just dampen it, a little bit of water, wipe off the excess water, and you can actually move it so it's centered exactly on top of that line. I'm going to switch to a tip number 3, and I'm going to go on top of it again. And you want to be right on top of it. Stop and pull away. And again, if you're not directly on top of it, get off a little bit, you can use it, the damp brush, just to move it just a little bit. Okay, now the idea with the Lambeth is you need to get centered right on top of it. They need to be right directly on top of each other. So let me lift this up. And if you look on this, it almost looks like I can almost see a little bit right here. I don't know if you can see that. But there's no spaces between these lines that are piped on top of each other. You don't want to see any light through there. You don't want to see any dips and valleys where part of the frosting line was not as much pressure as another. You want to keep your pressure constant. And especially where you're stopping and starting, you don't want to see any dips. And of course, I'll show you that when we actually go onto the cake.